Good morning. It's Monday grades, that time of the week. Let's dive right in here. A grades, A plus, definitely no question about it. Trevor Lawrence, 30 out of 43, completed 73% of his attempts for 368 yards. Trio of touchdowns, no INTs, 121.9 passer rating, 8.6 yards per attempt. 43% of his completions went for a first down. He also added another touchdown on the ground, and they won that game 36-22. The Lions are on fire lately, and Jared Goff is at the heart of that. 27 out of 39. He gets the A grade, 69% completion rate, 330 passing yards, 3 touchdowns of his own, 120.7 passer rating, 8.5 yards per attempt, and 46% of his completions went for a first down, and they won that game 34-23. At running back, no doubt about it, Christian McCaffrey gets the A plus. 14 carries, 119 yards, and a touchdown, 8.5 yards per attempt. He added 2 receptions on 3 targets for 34 yards and another touchdown through the air, 8 first downs. So 57% of his carries went for a touchdown or a first. And he had 5 carries at 10 plus. So that's 36%. 42% of his total yardage were gained on his touchdowns, on his pair of touchdowns. And he only had 4 of his 14 carries go for 4 fewer yards at 29%. And they just blew the Buccaneers out 35-7. The A grade goes to Miles Sanders. 17 carries, 144 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Averaged 8.5 per attempt. Had 1 reception on 3 targets for 11 yards, 5 first downs, so 41% either went for a touchdown or first. He had 5 carries at 10 plus, 41%. He had 43 touchdown yards, or 30% of his rushing yardage. 7 of his 17 carries went for 4 fewer yards, so 41%. And they won that game 48-22, wasn't even close. Okay, at wide receiver, little setup. Jamar Chase gets the A plus. Now, he may not have had the most dominant game of all wide receivers, but he was doing it by himself with Trent Taylor and just a ragtag group of wide receivers thrown out there, and they didn't even have their starting tight end. And I mean, it was Jamar Chase, and Jamar Chase by himself. 33 routes, 15 targets. He caught 10 for 119 yards and a touchdown. He had 6 first downs, which is 70% touchdown or first. 3.6 yards per route run, 11.9 yards per reception, a 112.9 targeted passer rating. He also drew a 33-yard defensive pass interference on Denzel Ward. He was the target of Joe Burrow's INT by Jadeveon Clowney. The Bengals won that game 23-10 for their first victory during Joe Burrow or Jamar Chase's career over the Browns. The A grade goes to Jerry Jeudy. So 43 routes, 9 targets. He caught 8 for 73 yards and 3 touchdowns. He only had 1 first down, but 50% of his receptions went for a touchdown or a first down. 1.7 yards per route run, 9.1 yards per reception. But, the 3 touchdowns built his targeted passer rating to 140. He was the target of Brett Rippon's INT that was collected by L'Jarius Sneed. But Jeudy almost led Denver back into this game. Well, they got back into it, but almost led them to the point where they might have tied Denver, tied Kansas City, but they ended up losing 34-28. All right, B grades. Jalen Hurts gets the first one. 21 out of 31, 68%. He had 217 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. no INTs, 109.2 passer rating, 7 yards per attempt, 32% of his completions went for a first down. He added 7 carries for 77 yards and a touchdown on the ground. I mean, these guys, all three of these quarterbacks were just clutch this week in week 14 with so many teams on a bye. So, heading into the playoffs, at least we'll be getting those 6 teams back. So that's definitely going to help. But yeah, again, Philadelphia won that game 48-22. Brock Purdy gets the other B. Yeah, I've got my doubts. I know Brock Purdy pretty well from college football, and this guy's inconsistent as they come. Mr. Irrelevant. I'm telling you, if you got him and you can trade him for any type of value, do it now. But 16 out of 21 is probably too late to trade, but who knows what your trade deadline is set to. 16 out of 21, 76% completion percentage. He threw for 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, no INTs, 134 passer rating, 8.8 yards per attempt, 52% first down rate, and he added another touchdown on the ground. Yeah, that's all great, but it was very low volume. It was, really the ground game that led San Francisco here, 35-7. Jerick McKinnon. Okay, he gets the B. And, he only had 6 carries for 22 yards on the ground, 3.7 yards per carry, but he added 7 receptions on 9 targets for 112 yards, 2 touchdowns. He only had 2 first downs on his carries, 33%. Not too bad though for a guy his size, and 0 carries of 10 plus. But we just can't forget Jerick McKinnon is one of the top athletes in the NFL. Of course he's a little older now, but he submitted one of the finest combine performances in history. So keep that in mind. 49% of his total yardage, or 66 yards, were racked up on his touchdowns. 4 of his 6 carries went for 4 or fewer yards, which is 67%. But they won that game 34-28, and it was really the combination of McKinnon and Juju that led the way. Derrick Henry, this one was frustrating. So he had 17 carries, 121 yards, and a touchdown, 7.1 yards per attempt. He added 3 receptions on 5 targets for 34 yards, most of it later through the air. After the first quarter, he had 11 carries, 94 yards, and a touchdown. It looked like this guy was about to set an NFL record, right? He only got 3 carries in the second quarter. And we're not talking about when Tennessee was was behind. They just weren't giving him the ball. Third quarter, 1 carry. Now, I understand the rest of the way they were playing from behind. That negative script kicked in, but they moved to negative script when they were only down by a couple of points. Now, Derrick Henry did lose a fumble at the very end of the second quarter that led to a Jacksonville touchdown, but that doesn't excuse only giving him 1 carry. And he did lose another carry at the beginning of the fourth quarter. But again, this is later on. This is after the fact. You can't excuse it. So overall, Henry had 6 first downs, so 35%, either touchdown or first, 4 carries of 10 plus, 24%. He only had 3 touchdown yards. Let's see, 10 out of his 17 carries did go for 4 or fewer yards, which is 59%. And they lost that game 36-22. Okay, real quick, honorable mention goes out to J.K. Dobbins. We don't have a graphic for him. He had 15 carries, 120 yards, and a touchdown in his return from the IR. Okay, the B grade at wide receiver, Justin Jefferson. 41 routes. I know he had the big numbers, but just bear with me here. 41 routes, 15 targets, 11 receptions, 223 yards. Yeah, he was on the Millie Maker winning lineup as well. So, definitely made an impact. But so 8 first downs, so 73% of his receptions went for a first down, and he averaged 5.44 yards per route run, 20.3 yards per reception. But This is where I do like targeted passer rating quite a bit because it really highlights the impact that he played in the game. Now, he was the driving force of the offense, but they lost this game 34-23. He had a 115.3 targeted passer rating, just kind of showing that he's below the guys above him here. Okay, and then the other reason why he's down as a B is because we're going to compare him to this next guy, Chris Moore. Right? Chris Moore only had 23 routes. Think about this, 23 routes. He had 11 targets. He caught 10 for 124 yards, no touchdowns. He had 5 first downs, so 50% first down rate, but he averaged 5.39 yards per route run, almost identical to Jefferson, only 12.4 yards per reception, but that's okay. The yards per route was there, and a 113.6 targeted passer rating, almost identical to Jefferson. They both get the B grades. All right, let's talk about the most significant second half performances. This is one of those weeks where, we only had so many games, and so these were very difficult to pluck out, and we could have had all of them from the same game, but we didn't even have it hardly any from any game. But at quarterback, man, Tua Tagovailoa had a terrible first half, the worst I've ever seen him play ever. And I even watched his high school film back in the day. So 3 completions on 15 attempts, he had a 20% completion percentage, 25 yards, no touchdowns or INTs, 1.7 yards per attempt, a 39.6 passer rating, and he didn't do anything on the ground in the first half. Okay. And they were losing, right? 17-7. Second half, he came out and he went 7 for 13. That's not great, but it's a 63% improvement. He had 120 passing yards. He threw a touchdown. He had 9.2 yards per attempt, which is an 82% improvement, a 111.1 passer rating, a 64% improvement. He added 3 carries for 28 yards on the grounds. And they outscored the Chargers 10-6 in the second half. That's really not going to help anybody. They lost that game 23-17. Okay, Baker Mayfield. Ugh, I hate even talking about this, but it's here. And he did it. So 3 out of 6 for 50% in the first half, 65 yards. You know what? And the numbers are better in the first half, and that's how pathetic this is. 10.8 yards per attempt, 88.9 passer rating. Okay, second half, 19 out of 29, 66%, which is a 24% improvement. 165 passing yards. He had the touchdown to Van Jefferson to win the game. 5.7 yards per attempt. That's a minus 90% decline. A 91.9 passer rating. He had a 3% improvement. They won that game 17-16. Okay, Joe Mixon. First half, 6 carries, 21 yards, 3.5 yards per attempt. He had 1 reception on 1 target for 4 yards during the first half. Second half, 8 carries, 75 yards. That's a 9.4 yards per attempt. It's just 63% improvement. 1 reception on 1 target for 6 yards. And again, they won that game 23-10. Richie James. So it looks like he might be out. I believe he suffered his second concussion in 4 weeks yesterday. But first half, he had 15 routes, 1 catch for -1 yards on 2 targets, and a minus 0.07 yards per route run. Second half, 24 routes, 6 receptions, 62 yards, and a touchdown. Touchdown came from Tyrod Taylor in garbage time, but that is the reality. 7 targets. They caught 6 of them. 2.58 yards per route run. That's a 103% improvement. It's not going to help erase the 41-14 defeat. Tyreek Hill, 9 routes in the first half. He caught 2 of 7 targets for 13 yards, 1.44 yards per route run. He also returned a Jeff Wilson fumble for a 57-yard touchdown in the second quarter, which accounted for their only points in the second half. He had 13 routes, 2 catches, 68 yards, and one 60-yard touchdown on 3 targets, 5.23 yards per route run, which is a 72% improvement. Getting down into the nasty, we have Dak Prescott, 24 completions, 39 yards, 62% completion percentage, 284 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 INTs, 70.9 passer rating, 7.3 yards per attempt. He completed 28% of his completions went for a first down, and he added 6 carries for 23 yards on the ground, and they narrowly edged Houston 27-23. What an embarrassing game for the Cowboys. It took the last possession to finally get the lead on the Texans. Oh, geez. Tom Brady, 34 out of 55. And I got to say, he had a lot of help in this performance. It wasn't just him. 62% completion rate, 253 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 INTs. We'll talk about the in my opinion, the guy responsible for both of those touchdowns. 63.7 passer rating. He averaged 4.6 yards per attempt. 25% of his completions went for a first down, and they lost 35-7. Dalvin Cook, 15 carries, 23 yards, 1 touchdown. He averaged 1.5 yards per carry. He caught 1 of his 2 targets for 13 yards. He had 1 first down, which is 13%. Touchdown or first, 0 carries of 10 plus. His touchdown was of the 1-yard variety, which is 4% of his yardage total. 13 of his 15 carries went for 4 or fewer yards, 87%. In one of the crazier plays you'll ever see, he was also strip sacked at the Detroit 3-yard line at the end of the second quarter when the game was still within range. They lost again, 34-23. Nick Chubb, 14 carries, 34 yards, 2.4 yards per carry. He caught all 3 of his targets for 20 yards, which kept him in the D category. 1 first down, 1 carry of 10 plus. 12 of his 14 carries went for 4 or fewer. And I do believe, Dalvin Cook was at 87% and Nick Chubb was at 86. I believe those were the lowest of anybody with at least 10 carries in week 14. Only 3 carries, though, in the first quarter, which was very interesting after he shredded the Bengals in their last game when they embarrassed Cincinnati and Cleveland. I don't understand that one. I get it. You got Deshaun Watson back. He also wants to make up for his poor performance last week against, again, Houston. But that's inexcusable. 3 carries. So they're undefeated. The Browns are undefeated when Nick Chubb gets 20 carries, unless they're trying to keep that stat going or something for some reason. I'd rather get the win. Give this guy 10 carries in the first quarter. Mike Evans. Oh man. He's getting close to taking the most disappointing trophy of the year at wide receiver. 48 routes, 9 targets. He caught 4 for 44 yards. Yeah, 3 went for first down, 75%, but 0.92 yards per route run, 11 yards per reception, a 55.8 targeted passer rating. He did have a 68-yard touchdown nullified on an offensive hold. Yeah, that would have taken him out of this category. Yeah, but he was the target on both of Tom Brady's interceptions that by Deshaun Gibson at the beginning of quarter 3 and Dre Greenlaw on the very next possession. He also was flagged for an illegal forward pass penalty, and they lost that game 35-7. I mean, honestly, Julio Jones has been a better DFS value than Mike Evans. Amari Cooper, 42 routes, 7 targets, 2 catches, 42 yards, 2 out of 7. Yeah, great. 2 first downs. Both of them went for first. He had 42 yards on 42 routes, so 1 yard per route run, 21 yards per reception. Who cares? He had 2 catches and a 52.1 targeted passer rating, and they lost. F grades, there's no question. I mean, the F minus minus goes to Derek Carr. 11 out of 20, 55%. He had 137 passing yards, no touchdowns, 2 INTs, a 36.9 passer rating. It's pretty rare that you see a passer rating below a spike, but that's what he got. 6.9 yards per attempt, 30% of his 11 completions went for a first down, and he added 4 carries for 11 yards. So it's okay now. Now, he lost that game 17-16 to Baker Mayfield. Mitch Trubisky, 22 out of 30, 73%, 276 yards. He averaged 9.2 yards per attempt, and 53% of his completions went for a first down. Great, right? No, he didn't do anything on the ground. And when after replacing Kenny Pickett, he threw 1 touchdown versus 3 INTs. He was directly responsible for the Steelers being able to upset the Ravens when Snoop Huntley was lost there. I mean, they should have come back and beat them. Anthony Brown is terrible quarterback. It's embarrassing, and it really speaks to what type of situation Pittsburgh would have been in if Trubisky had been the starter all year. He had a 73.1 passer rating. Travis Etienne, he's going to have better days ahead. 17 carries, 32 yards. That's 1.9 average, nothing through the air, which is what really separates him from Dalvin Cook and Nick Chubb. But yeah, so 2 first downs, no carries of 10 plus, 13 of his 17 carries went for 4 or fewer, which is 76%. And they won that game 36-22, which is odd because the other F goes to a running back that was in a game that their team won. Jamal Williams, 16 out of 37. That's 2.3 per attempt. He did nothing through the air on 1 target, 0 first downs, 0 carries of 10 plus. 12 of his 16 carries went for 4 or fewer, which is 75%. And they won that game, by 11 points. DJ Moore, wow, 26 routes. He was on the field, I believe, for 96% of the passing snaps. He had 3 targets, and he did nothing through the air, and they won that game 30-24. The rookie faceplant of the week is Sky Moore, 18 routes. Yeah, not a whole lot of routes, but it was bad. 2 targets. He caught 1 for 7 yards. He had 0.39 yards per route run, a 50 targeted passer rating. That's because he was the target on one of Patrick Mahomes' INT that was collected by Surtain. And the Chiefs won that game 34-28. That's all we have for Monday grades. We'll be back after week 15. The playoffs are here, ladies and gentlemen. You have yourself a fine morning.